Welcome to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides, and tonight I am joined once again by my partner, Kevin Stone. Kevin, how are you this evening?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Hate this weather. It's misery central here. Hate the snow, hate the cold. So bring me back to those tents in training camp. That's the kind of weather I want.
That's disgusting. There's
Yeah,
there's a
no,
happy
please
medium somewhere.
stop. There's no happy. This isn't the
Yes,
happy
there
medium.
is.
No, there's no happy medium. This is disgusting. When you go out in the morning and everything's frozen solid
So
and
soft.
it hurts. I mean, so soft. Dude, you're the softest, thinnest skinned person I know. And you're calling me soft?
No, when it comes to
Trust me.
weather, I can
No,
handle this.
you can't handle this. Trust me. You
Sure, I can.
pretend like you can, but I don't think you can. And talking
Definitely.
about being able to handle weather, you are the biggest weather wuss I've ever met. You can't stand it when it's 75 degrees, and you're
Correct.
lecturing me
Disgusting.
about this weather.
Yes.
No, it's not disgusting. It's just that you're weak physically, you're thin-skinned, and you can't handle hot weather. And
Sure.
nobody likes this stuff. And stop fake pretending like you like it. All right, enough
Okay.
about the weather. We've deduced that Stone is weather weak. We know that. That's well documented.
You couldn't.
We're going to
It's
move
so
on
wrong.
and talk football.
So
But before we do that, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. If you're currently looking to sell your home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call at 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, he has the knowledge and the know-how to help you in this process. Again, if you're looking to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give Herb a call at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, before you start belly aching about how I offended you, let's talk about the Patriots here. Speaking of offensive, they blew a 21-0 lead, a 24-7 lead en route to a 35-31 loss of the Buffalo Bills. We don't have to relive the game, but you were up there today. You're always about vibe and reading between the lines. What was the vibe up there today?
Business as usual. They knew they weren't going to win every game. Like, I don't think any of us thought that they were going to run the table and, go all the way to the Super Bowl without losing again. And they knew it. I don't know if you felt the same way. You could tell last night. Like, they were pissed, obviously, but it's the NFL. Like, you're not going to win every game. And I think they were eager to get back to work today. I thought they were looking forward to getting back to work last night. We talked about it with John Lyons last night. I thought the way they handled themselves post game was about as good as you can hope for if you're a fan. Like, yeah, you want them to be pissed that they lost, but you still have 3 games left. You can still win the division. You can technically still win the 1 seed, although I think Denver's going to win out now, especially with Kansas City doing what they're dealing with. But no, nobody was down or anything today. They know they played well for what, a half at least, and that's about it. But look, Buffalo is still the reigning defending AFC East champ, and they played like it yesterday. You said this, I think, during the game. Championship teams do what Buffalo or does what Buffalo did yesterday. They find a way in the second half. They make more plays on the road, and they get a win. So, yeah, it sucks that they lost. Yes, it was a choke job. It was a historic choke job, which I didn't realize until the Buffalo fans were pointing it out to us on our post game show. But business as usual. They're going to get back on the horse. You can't dwell on it. This is a very difficult game against a desperate team on Sunday night now. And they said at post game, you can't let it turn into two. So I thought the attitude there was good today. I thought the attitude there last night was good as well. Again, it sucks that they lost, but they were going undefeated the rest of the way. And you hope it's a learning lesson now.
Yeah, I'm not going to give them a free pass. They blew it, plain and simple. They
Oh,
should have
yeah,
won
they
that game.
choked.
It's inexcusable. And to your point about it being a historic loss, it was the first time in the history of Gillette Stadium that they lost a game in which they led 17-0 or more. So, yes, it's a bad loss, plain and simple. And Buffalo's not a championship team. They've never won anything. So, I don't care that they've won the AFCs 5 years in a row. That doesn't mean jack squat. At the end of the day, to me, this game was more about what the Patriots didn't do than what the Bills did. I thought after the game there was way too many questions about Josh Allen and how great he is and everything else. This game came down to two things. One, your defense couldn't stop the run. They clearly missed Milton Williams and Robert Spillane, and it showed, especially in the second half. And two, you decided not to run the football, and you couldn't put the game away on offense in the second half, and that was the difference. And if you were looking for a third thing, the return game killed them yesterday. Buffalo had 167 return yards to the Patriots' 94 return yards.
Penalties, too.
But yeah, the penalties too, although I think people were too quick to blame the officials. The officials didn't cost them they didn't cost them this game.
No, but the special teams penalties did help with field position.
Well, I don't think it was penalties as much as it was their special teams didn't play well. They had almost 200 yards in return yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, Josh Allen and company were working with a short field most of that second half. That's easy to do. If all you have to do is go 50, 60 yards to score, pretty much every offense in the league can do that, no problem, no matter what their personnel is. So, for me, I'm not going to let them off the hook. They blew it. They should have won this football game. It's inexcusable, okay? And again, I know Buffalo's the quote-unquote more experienced team, and they have Josh Allen. But at the end of the day, you cannot blow a 3-score lead at any level of football. That ultimately falls on your defense to protect that lead. Their defense couldn't do that, and they lost. And this is a bad loss for them. And this could have a ripple effect now. You go to Baltimore Sunday night. You're playing a Baltimore team that needs to win to keep pace in the AFC North. They're on the outside looking in right now in the AFC playoff picture. You're going to get their best effort. And then you got the Jets and the Dolphins, two games that you should win. But as you well know, New York is never easy going down there and playing them, especially later in the season. And then Miami, need I remind you of 2019 when they had nothing to play for and Brian Flores brings them out here? They beat the Patriots and cost them a first-round bye. So, I mean, again, I think, look, you hope it doesn't have a ripple effect. They said all the right things after the game from Vrabel down onto the players, but make no mistake about it. They blew this game, and if they are who we thought they were, to quote the late, great Dennis Green, then they need to play better than this. Because at the end of the day, you cannot blow 3 touchdown leads in this league and call yourself a good football team. Good football teams don't do that, plain and simple. So I think too many people around here were a little too quick to give them a free pass. I wasn't going to be that guy. I'm not going to do it. This is a game they should have won.
No, I agree. They choked. But the original question was, what was it like today? And I thought they responded pretty well. But no, you can't sugarcoat yesterday. It was a choke job. The definition of a choke job, especially at home. And I wrote about this today and asked Garrett Bradbury about it too. I thought that place was rocking yesterday. It felt like a playoff game. So you wasted the atmosphere and the crowd being behind you yesterday.
But see, the thing is, with all due respect to the fans, I don't give a shit about that. What I care about is you lost the football game. And at the end of the day, listen, the fans are going to come back for the Miami game. I mean, they're bought in now. I mean, there were still too many Bills fans here yesterday. It blows me away how many Patriot fans are still willing to sell their tickets with this team being 11-3. It's amazing to me. Ken Matthias checks in. Unacceptable loss yesterday. That's Matthias being pissed right there. Up 24-7, and you get outscored 28-7 to end the game in the second half. On the bright side, Henderson 2 TDs on the big play on 2 big plays. Yep, that was a bright side. I mentioned them not running the football in the second half. He scores a 52-yard touchdown on that one back power play. They don't come back to it. It's the only time they ran it in the game. So I think coaching was a problem yesterday as well. They got out coached in the second half, but I also think that they did some peculiar things. I don't understand why they didn't then continue to run the football, why they would go with the extra tackle and get in that 22 heavy personnel and not run to his side. They exclusively ran to Hunter Henry, who was lined up as a wing. They did some things yesterday that to me didn't add up in the second half and didn't help. I'm not saying coaching cost them this game, but like I said, it certainly didn't help. And this goes with the officiating too. Look, what was the call on Carlton Davis ticky-tack? Yeah, I would say. I thought it was a pretty ticky-tack call. But, I mean, again, the Marcus Jones penalty was a penalty. But at the end of the day, I think too many people were quick to point to the officiating yesterday after the game. And I thought that was an overreaction, in my opinion. You can't say that the officials cost them the game. Look, let's be honest here. Officials make questionable calls week in and week out in this league. It's a fact of life. You can't point to that every week and say, whenever you lose a close game, especially, well, we would have won this game, but the officials cost us the game, or they made it about them, or whatever the case might be. At the end of the day, yeah, Buffalo scored on that possession, but I think it's delusional to think that the officials cost them this game.
No, that's just old school Patriots fans immediately, falling back on that. I will say the Marcus Jones play, if anything, I was surprised that they called it a catch.
Not the right time for this, by the way, but we can't answer that question. Sorry, buddy.
I agree, but it is what it is. Yeah, so I thought the Marcus Jones play, I thought he intercepted that ball, if anything. But look, for anybody that wants to point to the officials, the go-ahead touchdown for Buffalo was 3rd and 14.
Yeah.
Ball's on the 14-yard line, so make it stop. There were
Exactly.
There were several chances yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah, there were several chances to get off the field, especially on 3rd and 4th down. So the defense let you down. Your MVP candidate let you down yesterday. He wasn't great by any means. He missed a bunch of throws and open guys.
I thought that was his worst passing performance of the season.
By far.
14 of 23. It's the first time all year he didn't throw for over 200 yards.
Right, and I thought he was smart with his legs early on. But just a bad day for him overall at probably the worst time possible. But I feel like he'll bounce back. I think the coaching staff will have him ready to go this week. And I do think we've seen it all year. They're a good road team. They're a really good road team.
Haven't lost on the road yet this year.
No, that's right. I didn't even think of that. So I'd expect them to have a good effort down there. It's just you can't let it snowball. I don't think they will during the week in terms of preparation and stuff. Guys even talking today, Ramondre Stevenson was talking today saying, maybe we'll just be a little bit more attentive in meetings and stuff like that. Not saying that they weren't, but it just sort of locks in guys a little bit more knowing what's on the line now that you blew the opportunity. But no, you can't blame the officials yesterday. They had plenty of chances to win that game. And again, you were at home. You can't lose that game.
Nope. Ken Mattias checks back in. Thoughts on linebacker Robert Spillane out there for warm-ups but didn't play in the game. Well, that's standard procedure. I mean, if it's somebody that hasn't been designated as being out prior to the game, you have them come out for warm-ups. They test whatever their injury situation is, and if they feel good, they let the coaches and the trainers know, and they dress and play. If they don't feel good or they don't feel right in most instances, then they let the trainers and the coaches know, and they don't play. And in the case of Spillane yesterday, whatever his issue was, they weren't fully prepared to have him play. So my guess is they sat him out for precautionary reasons, despite the magnitude of the game. You hope he's back this week. Again, that run defense is way different than what we saw the first 8 weeks. Without him and Milton Williams, they're just not the same up front.
No, and Vrabel actually was asked about this today, and I'm looking at the transcript right now. He said, I just think it was to see, and he's talking about the pregame warm-up, it was just to see what we can get, see whether he was going to be able to do it, or he was going to be or if he was going to be in an emergency role. But he also went on to say, I don't think it affected the game day sort of roster. So it's one of two things. It's either it came out of nowhere during the week and they still thought he could go. To your point, you just see what he can do in warm-ups and hopefully he can go. But it's not like, it's not like hockey where you have that day game skate. You can call a guy up from, wherever, from Providence per se, let's say we're talking about the Bruins, and just slot him in there. So they would have had to know that he couldn't play, Saturday night? You know what I mean? To be able to make that the practice squad elevation.
Well, I think that your training staff ultimately determines whether or not a player can get to the point where they can test things out in pregame, and then you make a determination. Right. The organization has to be comfortable with keeping the roster spot open for the player in order to do that. That's why you typically – it used to be more of a common practice than it is now. I think teams are taking a different approach to maintaining roster flexibility and using roster spots. It used to be that, hey, he's our starter at this position. We're going to test him out pregame. If he's 50, 60%, he's going to go, especially later in the year. But teams are a lot more cautious with that now. So I was a little surprised that they didn't declare him as out and use the roster spot somewhere else.
Well, so I was gonna say they must have felt like it was still obviously an option, after Saturday's walkthrough. But if you still have doubts at that point, and you need all hands on deck to defend to Josh Allen and that offense, why take the chance? Like that's my only thing. But it's Robert Spillane, and he wants to be
Yeah,
out there.
and he's one of your best defensive
Right.
players, and he
Right.
to your
So
point, he wants to be out there, and I'm sure he pushed to play. So
yeah, so it's hard to
I
blame
mean,
Vrabel for that one.
yeah, no, and listen, it's easy to point the finger and say, well, why didn't they use the roster spot somewhere else? And again, that's a fair question, but I think at the end of the day, your best chance to win this football game is to have your best players on the field. He's one of your best players on defense. You give him every opportunity to get on the field, and if that means you keep his roster spot open and you let him test it out in pregame, then you do that. I think a veteran player like that, he deserves that opportunity. Ken checks back in with the loss yesterday. Does this week against the Ravens become more of a must-win to stay ahead of the Bills for the AFC East and also keep pace with Denver for the number 1 seed? Well, the 1 seed, in my opinion, is gone. I don't think they're going to get the 1 seed. I'm out on the 1 seed. That's over. Now you're playing for the AFC East and that 2 seed. That's really the goal here. You're going to be playing opening weekend of the playoffs. I think the 1 seed's out the window. The Packers had to win yesterday. That was your best chance, even with a loss yesterday, to still have a shot at that 1 seed. Once Denver came from behind and won that game, I mean, look, they have a tough schedule. They still have to play Jacksonville at home. They still have the Chargers. They still have Kansas City. But Kansas City doesn't have Patrick Mahomes anymore. Gardner Minshew is going to be their starting quarterback. So that they're going to be able to go into Kansas City and win. At least they should. So, I mean, again, I think the 1 seed's out the window. Unless Denver has some type of an epic collapse here, you're not gaining the 1 seed. Now it's about winning the division, which they can do even if they lose Sunday. All they have to do is beat the Jets and Dolphins to do that. But really what it comes down to is now it's about trying to win out, get those 14 wins if you can, secure that 2 seed, win the division, and see what happens from there.
Yeah, no, look, if you look at the standings, and I actually started thinking about this today, of course you want to win and you want a home playoff game. You want to be able to say you're division champs. And I know you're going to take the approach of you can't be afraid of anybody. I don't know if I want them getting the 2 seed right now with Houston sitting there at 7. So look, obviously, again, I'm going to preface this by saying you want the division title. You would rather be playing a home playoff game. But the way things are shaking out right now, that's going to be an extremely hard test, that first playoff game, if it is Houston. That's all I'm saying. So
yeah, I
it's
mean,
interesting how things are
listen,
working out.
the goal should be to be the 2 seed. If you
Of
can be the
course.
2 seed,
Yeah.
you win the division. It doesn't matter who has to come in here. You got to play no matter who it is.
Mhm.
And I know that everybody around here is painting Houston as the boogeyman, and that's fine. You got to play whoever it is. I still would rather play Houston than had Mahomes remained healthy and Kansas City had gone on a run, and they
Or
come in
Buffalo
here.
again.
Yeah, and they come in here as the 7 seed. No, thank you. I'd much rather play Houston, who I know also has a propensity for not playing well in the playoffs and choking. And let's not forget, this team was mediocre for most of the season, and the last 4 or 5 weeks, their defense is playing at a high level. They've been playing outstanding football, and now C.J. Stroud is starting to get into a rhythm, and they look like they're a scary team. But I still think that's a team you should be able to beat at home, despite the fact that they have a good defense. Question is, are the Patriots going to be healthy? Is Milton Williams going to be back? Is Will Campbell going to be back here at some point eventually? We know Spillane will probably be back possibly as early as this week. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you play. Ideally, you want to get that 2 seed if you can, because what that does is you host a first-round playoff game, but the other thing that it does is you could potentially now host a second-round playoff game as well. So now you could potentially get 2 home games out of it. Yes, if you end up getting to the AFC Championship game, you would have to go out to Denver, which that to me is more of the doomsday scenario, if you will. But I also think Denver's a type of team that I don't buy them. I think they're the worst 1 seed since 2021 when the Titans finished as the 1 seed and Cincinnati went in there in the divisional round and knocked them off. I don't buy the Broncos. I just don't. I know Bo Nix has had a great year for them,
Well,
and
I was going to
I think
say,
he's played over his head a little bit, and their defense has been elite. but I still don't buy them.
So is it Bo Nix for you? Is that why?
Is that why what?
Why you don't believe in Denver?
No, I
Mostly.
don't think it's Bo Nix at all. I just don't think they're a great team.
No, I'm with
And
you. The
and
only
and
thing
I
that
and, and I respect Sean Payton, but he has a history of his teams choking in the playoffs as well. He had a great run in New Orleans, but they also had some years where they were a disappointment. And I just don't think that they're an overly talented team. But as we all know, they're extremely tough to beat out there with the altitude, with the weather being as unpredictable as it is out there. It's not a place you want to go in the playoffs. They have a distinct home field advantage there. So that's why them getting the 1 seed ultimately, no matter who it is, and especially when you consider how wide open things are right now in the NFL, no matter who it is, you don't necessarily want to have to go out there and play them.
No, so I was gonna say I'm with you on Denver. Sean Payton's interesting because you're right. He had, all those years with Drew Brees and the Saints seemingly making the playoffs every year, but he's only got one title. So that coaching matchup, if it came down to him and Vrabel, would be really interesting to me.
It would. Ken checks back in. You guys being there covering the game and the team. How were the vibes post game in the locker room with the players and coaches after the 10-game winning streak was snapped? Well, I'll ask our resident vibes expert, Kevin Stone, here to answer that question.
I mean, you were in the locker room. I went up to Wright. Again, I thought they were fine yesterday.
Yeah.
It wasn't doom and gloom. The season's not over. You
No.
wasted an opportunity at home to celebrate with your fans. That's about it. But they're professionals. They knew they weren't going to go on whatever a 15, 16 game winning streak all the way to the Super Bowl. It's just not how it works. So the vibes were fine. It's just, again, they're professionals. The head coach was yelling to them, and Bradbury said this today. Vrabel said to them post game in the locker room, "Welcome to the NFL, boys." Like, it is what it is. You lost the game at home. It wasn't doom and gloom. I thought they handled it just fine.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought that the attitude in the locker room after the game was one of, look, we lost. It
It
sucks.
wasn't last year.
But we got to watch the film, fix the mistakes, get back to work, and bounce back next week. I thought it was very, very simplistic in terms of the approach. And I agree. I think that's the way they should approach it. I don't think it should be gloom and doom, season's over. You're 11-3. You're still record-wise one of the best teams in the league, and you're one of the best teams in the league, period. And in a year where it's so wide open, I don't think you get down on yourself after a game like that. It sucks. You should have won. You blew it. But at the same time, you can't dwell on it. And as the old coaching adage goes, you can't let your rival beat you twice. You can't let the Buffalo Bills beat you next week. You got to go to Baltimore, play a good game, and win a game. And at the end of the day, there cannot be a ripple effect of this game into that game. They've got to put this one behind them now. Starting tomorrow, it's all about the Baltimore Ravens and moving on and trying to go down there on Sunday night and picking up a win. And that's going to be tough to do. Baltimore coming off a 24-0 win over the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday. At 7-7, they still have a lot to play for. If Miami beats Pittsburgh tonight, now all of a sudden that division, the AFC North, is going to come down to that Week 18 matchup more than likely between the Steelers and Ravens in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, the Ravens have a ton to play for. They just need to hold serve. Now, they have a really tough schedule left. They have the Patriots on Sunday night. Then the following weekend, they go to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Then they have the Steelers in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be hard for them to get in, especially because, they'll struggle with the Patriots on Sunday night, but they also have to go to Green Bay and face a desperate Packers team that's going to be fighting for their playoff lives. So, the Ravens have an uphill climb, but they're still in it. And as long as they're in it, they're going to come to play on Sunday night. So we'll see. Ken says, I'm curious how Sapichetti feels about his Bengals being shut out yesterday. I don't know. Text him and ask him. You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Do want to remind you that if you are looking to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home or refinance, give our good buddy Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Kevin, some happenings at the Heights yesterday while we were up at the Gillette Stadium covering the Patriots-Bills games. News broke that Bill O'Brien has made 2 big hires hiring Kurt Anderson, formerly of UMass, as Boston College's new offensive line coach, replacing Matt Applebaum. And Joe Daly, a familiar name. Joe Daly, coach of wide receivers at BC in 2020 and 2021 under Jeff Hafley. Joe Daly is back. He is the new receivers coach, replacing Darryl Wyatt. I've got a lot of thoughts on these hires, but I'd like to start off by getting yours first.
Well, there was another one today as well. BC has hired an assistant GM under Kenyatta Watson. It's going to be Ryan Bartow. Just looking at kind of his resume, this is another big step for them recruiting-wise. This guy, Ryan, has done basically everything you can do for some elite schools when it comes to recruiting. From travel, stuff all the way to player evaluations. He's had his hand in everything. Got started in Oregon, was just running Sacramento State most recently, but he's also been at Florida State as well. He's got over 20 years working in recruiting. It's huge. I'll get to the other two hires in a minute, but the continuous addition of more eyes and ears in the recruiting department, I think, is huge. The more eyes and ears you can get in that department, with everything going on and the crazy landscape right now, to have more people focused on that aspect of building a program, I think is important, and it makes Bill O'Brien's job a little bit easier. Now, the hirings, you knew more about Kurt Anderson than I did, but he's been successful wherever he's gone, and I thought the biggest thing that stood out to me was he's won a national championship as a player. He was on the 97 Michigan team. Correct me if I'm wrong. Brady was there. No? I think. I'm pretty sure Brady was on that team. So if not, it was whatever national championship team that was. But he knows what it looks like to win. Granted, he was just at UMass, and that's all BC fans are probably going to focus on. But I think he's a good coach from everything I've read and heard. So the Joe Daly thing I love. Instead of having to introduce a brand new coach, to that room, and yes, you have new players, but the reacclimation process will be easy for him. He'll know some familiar faces in that building, around that campus. Some of the players were there when he was there. Even the new guys are going to know sort of what he was all about when he was there. So I think familiarity at that point for Bill O'Brien is huge in terms of continuity on the staff and everything like that. So I thought both hires were good. Still waiting on a defensive coordinator hire, but I know fans aren't, too thrilled. Everything I've seen, they've called it underwhelming. Look, that is what it is. It's Bill O'Brien's call, and Kenyatta Watson, it's his call on the assistant GM. But I think that both position coach hires, were fine, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I love that people think that these hires are underwhelming, like as if they know who the offensive line coaches are out there, the receiver coaches. Like, people need to just shut the hell up. They say stupid things, and I'm so sick and tired of it. It really, I don't want to. Once this ball gets rolling downhill, it's on. So I'm gonna bite my tongue. I'm sick and tired of the stupidity of some people around here and the stupid shit that they say. But all that being said, look, I said this from the beginning. He is going to, and Matt Applebaum fits this, which makes his dismissal a little bit of a surprise. But I've said this all along since he made these moves a week and a half ago. He is going to look for guys that have that combination of NFL and college experience, and he wants guys that, despite having both levels of experience, have recruited at a high level. Kurt Anderson has recruited at a high level. You look at his resume and some of the guys specifically that he brought in at Northwestern, most notably Peter Skoronski, who starts for the Tennessee Titans now as one of their guards. He was one of his guys, okay? He has a lot of Midwest ties. Boston College needs to get back in the Midwest, especially when it comes to offensive linemen. They need to start recruiting that area at a high level again, like they did for years. It seems like the last few years they've gotten away from that area a little bit. They need to get back into the Midwest. Kurt Anderson allows you to do that. He's a guy who's won as a player. He's a guy who's got NFL experience coaching with the Buffalo Bills. He's a good technical coach. He knows what he's doing, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say, well, geez, I wanted Rick Trickett. I wish they hired him. Or, I wanted so-and-so. At the end of the day, what matters is what you're getting from an experience and recruiting standpoint, okay? And Kurt Anderson is a good coach in those two areas. I've had people say to me, yeah, but he was at UMass last year. So what? Okay, so they went over. Does that make him a bad coach? No, it does not. Okay, that was a bad situation. He's going into another situation that was bad. You hope that he comes in and he does a good job and he gets this group going. And more importantly, he helps in terms of recruiting in the portal and as far as recruiting high school kids. And they're able to get back into the Midwest and begin to add talent along the offensive line from that region. Joe Daly, you said it, familiar face, familiar name. I still can't believe he fired Wyatt. I mean, a guy that's a good coach who's developed talent here and a good recruiter. Joe Daly's also a good coach and a good recruiter. And again, he fits the profile of what O'Brien was looking for, a guy with NFL and college experience and an elite level recruiting background. Daly checks off all those boxes as well. So again, people are going to say these are underwhelming hires. That's fine. I think they're full of crap. They don't really know what they're talking about from a position standpoint. The bigger hire is going to be defensive coordinator. That's a hire that people can question if he doesn't necessarily hire someone with a pedigree and some experience, which, by the way, Tim Lewis had years of NFL experience. He had the pedigree and the experience as a defensive coordinator, and it didn't work out. So that doesn't guarantee your success. If you go out and get someone with name, cachet, and a pedigree, you need to get yourself a good coach who can get this defense on track and get them playing at a high level. So I think for me, that's going to be the hire that I think is going to probably elicit the biggest response. And if people are down on that hire, okay, fine. That might be a coach they know. They may have coaches that they know about that they like that they would have liked to have seen here. But to criticize who he hired as the offensive line coach and the receivers coach is just idiotic. People don't know what they're talking about.
No, and well, BC fans, they're going to criticize everything. And after a 2-10 season,
I go to the games.
Yeah, no, I know. That's very true. Just two more things real quick. One on Anderson. He worked for the Buffalo Bills as well. And we've talked about this a lot. And to your point, Tim Lewis had this too. But now with Jim Mora leaving UConn, this staff can claim, sort of lay claim as the staff of the Northeast that can still get you or develop you and get you to the NFL. And I think that's huge. And I think that's a big feather in Anderson's cap. And then with Daly, he was at practices a lot this past year. He wasn't really doing a lot in terms of, outside of BC. So he was in practice. I remember seeing him at training camp a ton. Now, obviously, we didn't watch practice during the regular season, but I know he was around. So even those young guys now know who he is. And I do think that familiarity is going to be big.
Yeah, it is.
To your point about DC, you're right. That is the one fans can criticize. Because when it looks as bad as it looked last year, O'Brien has to get that right.
Oh, absolutely. It's his biggest hire. He 100% has to get it right. They can't be that bad on defense next year. If they are, he's out. So he 100% has to get that hire right. I mean, that's a very important hire, and it's a hire that I think, again, a lot of people are going to question, and they're going to say, well, we wanted this person or that person. At the end of the day, he's got to get the right guy who's the right fit for Boston College and for Bill O'Brien and the players. But at the end of the day, they've got to be way better defensively than they were this year. It starts there. I think O'Brien, Will Loring, they can get that offense going again, especially if they get the right quarterback in here. But the defense needs a lot of work. Listen, this roster needs a lot of work. I still think you're going to see a lot of turnover here. I mean, I'm talking 30, 35 new faces. I've said that now for the last 2 or 3 weeks. This roster needs to be upgraded. You need a lot of talent. You need a lot of new faces, and you've seen it. A lot of kids have entered the portal here in the last couple of weeks, especially local guys. Datrell Jones, Jack Funk today. You've had a lot of guys that have decided that they're going to enter the portal and test the waters elsewhere. That's a sign that Bill O'Brien has told these guys that, listen, I can't promise you playing time next year, which I think is a sign that they're going to look to revamp the roster, which, quite frankly, is overdue. They need to do it. You can't go 2-10 and bring the majority of that roster back. It just doesn't work that way in today's world of college football.
No, and I was just going to add on. That's where you have Kenyatta Watson and now Ryan Bartow or Bartow. And we have to figure out the pronunciation. That's where you have them as key additions here. And I think they can't be overstated. Well, excuse me, understated. Overstated? overstated.
Just figure it out. I mean, again, that Waltham education is failing you at every turn.
Well, it's not the Waltham education; it's the 3 colleges I went to and didn't finish.
Oh, I
But
thought it was something else.
but no, well, no, but
Off the magic dragon.
well, no, that helps the writing. But in terms of the recruiting to get kids here to BC, these guys have worked at elite universities. So whatever the budget constraints are, and we think that it's going to be better, right? But we don't know. Whatever the admissions constraints still are, these guys are going to have to work around it and figure out, what talent can work for them in the portal to win now. Bill O'Brien can't wait around.
Nope.
Yeah, and yes, they
You're not building anything here now. It's about a quick turnaround, and you got to win next year if you want to have the opportunity to build something long term that's sustainable.
So I was going to say, for a program that wants to build it, the old school way, we talk about it all the time. High school kids are getting screwed with the portal, but it is what it is. Like, as a results-based business, you got to win now. That's why I think the GM and assistant GM being appointed are huge, because those guys are now, they're your main recruiters now. Like, this entire recruiting department has basically been revamped in a matter of 2 weeks. It looks a lot different. Hopefully the talent they bring in, or the caliber of talent they start bringing in, looks different now too.
Ken Matthias checks in, thoughts on Heisman Trophy winner Mendoza. Well, Stone voted for Pavia, so I'm not surprised. I thought he was a worthy Heisman winner. I thought he was the best quarterback in the country all year. I thought he's one of the best players, if not the best player in the country. I mean, what Kurt Cignetti's done at Indiana the last 2 years is unheard of. It's I've never seen it. That turnaround has been unbelievable there. And to do it with 2 different quarterbacks. He did it with Rourke last year and Mendoza this year, and Mendoza wins a Heisman. I think it is phenomenal. I think he deserves it, and I think he's going to be a top 3 to 5 pick in the NFL draft in April. He'll be the first quarterback off the board. So, yeah, congratulations to Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, I had Pavia 1, Julian Sayin 2, and Mendoza 3 in my first vote. Now, I would say
and after the way you voted, it probably should be your last vote.
Well, it won't be. I know that. So I will say the day that it opened, I was under the impression that we had to vote right away. So I did not take that Big Ten championship game into consideration. I will fully admit that. I was also always under the impression that the postseason really shouldn't count. And I feel like it ultimately did for him. That's not to say he's not deserving, but I'll just say I voted for Pavia because it's Vanderbilt. Like, if you have Vanderbilt,
what do you mean the postseason? It has nothing to do with the postseason. They haven't played the postseason yet.
Oh, I meant championship games, like in terms of correct. Correct. Thank you for fixing that. I voted for Pavia simply because, again, it's Vanderbilt. Like, if you have Vanderbilt, even in that national discussion, to compete in the SEC the way they did, I thought he should.
I think it's a fair point.
Yeah, I thought he deserved it, but obviously you can't take anything away from Mendoza, and who doesn't love, the way he's portrayed himself once he's gotten the media attention. He's a great kid, obviously, and I hope he does go early in the NFL draft. It'll be a great story.
Of course, one of the other big stories this weekend was Ricky Santos. This was a big one, leaving UNH for Penn. I got a text from a source of mine on Thursday night, and he simply said Santos to Penn, and I asked him, I said, first of all, I was flabbergasted, because to me, I'm like, what? There's no way Ricky Santos is leaving UNH. I viewed him as a lifer there. He's an alumnus. He's an all-time great in the program. He's done a phenomenal job since taking over for Coach Mack. There's no way I saw him leaving there. But he did, and then my source confirmed it to me on Saturday morning, and that's when I posted it, and Tom King, our colleague up in New Hampshire, also put it out. This is surprising news on the surface. When you look at it, you say to yourself, wait a minute, how could he leave UNH, his alma mater, what he's built there? He's taken him to the playoffs 2 straight years. How could he walk away from that? I think it's simple. I think it comes down to money, resources, and with the Ivy League now being able to play in the FCS playoffs, that's an added bonus now. Now you can compete for a national championship at an Ivy League school. So when you factor in that they pay better than the CAA, at least the upper echelon schools do, and then you factor in better resources / facilities, potentially, not always, but potentially, and then the opportunity to compete for a national championship. I Now you could see why Santos ultimately made the decision to take this job. And this is a program with a rich tradition and history at Penn. He's not just taking any job. He's taking a really good job.
So to your point, I was just as shocked. I immediately texted you on Saturday morning. Because you're right, it's Rick Santos. Like he's Mr. UNH. He is UNH through and through. Um, and we had heard that the Zoom he had with the UNH players was very emotional. He apologized and said he had to make a decision for his family. I believe he called it a selfish decision to his players for his family. And like you said, that screams money to me. Like who wouldn't want to get the pay raise
Oh
and
yeah, oh yeah.
like especially at the
I
FCS
mean, he
level.
definitely got a pay raise. I
Yeah.
don't think he look. And I know a lot of people question Jim Mora leaving UConn for Colorado State. When you looked at the money there, it was comparable.
Mhm.
But for Santos to leave UNH, someone who has a lot more invested in that program than Mora had at UConn, a pay raise and resources were a big reason why he made that decision. I mean, it is what it is, but
Right.
that's a fact.
No, so and now granted, my first thought was I didn't consider Penn really that much better than UNH just because they've been in the postseason for 17 of 20 years. But again, when you think about it, the facilities are probably a little bit better than they are up in Durham. You're right about the Ivy League. There's something about being an Ivy League coach that probably
It's and I'm glad you brought that up. It's job security, plain and simple.
yeah,
Those jobs. Here's the thing with those Ivy League jobs. Those Ivy League jobs are coveted.
yep,
Those jobs are coveted, and they're coveted because as long as you are competitive at your school, they pay well, and you have job security.
yep.
Those jobs don't open very often. I mean, we saw it around here with Tim Murphy at Harvard all these years, and so I think Santos looked at that and said, "Well, if I'm going to make the move." And if I want that long-term stability, if I'm going to make the move, now's the time. I got to jump on it. And that's a big reason why he took it. Again, like I said, people want those Ivy League head coaching jobs. They're not just coveted locally, they're coveted nationally.
Yeah, and it shows. Again, he's Mr. UNH, so you know it had to be a difficult decision. But on the flip side, Scott James is now the interim head coach, and we've been lucky enough to get to know him throughout the years. And I actually had a long conversation with him today. We'll have a story out later this week. But all I'll say is this is a guy that is more than passionate about UNH, and frankly, I think he deserves the job right now. Obviously, they're going to go through a national search as they should when you have a program that's been again as successful as them, 17 playoff appearances in 20 years. That doesn't come by accident. But this is a guy who's been at UNH, been at Holy Cross, grew up wanting to play at UNH. He's now familiar with the staff and the players. We just talked about the familiarity with BC. You can't get much more familiar than the defensive coordinator. Um, and again, we both know how passionate he is about the game and about his players, especially when he was with Bob Chesney and Holy Cross. So I think they have the right guy already. I hope he ends up getting the job, but UNH is certainly not. They're not going to be starting over by any means, no matter who gets the job. But in particular, if it is Scott, they're going to hit the ground running, and I'd expect them to be competitive again if he is the guy in charge. But no matter who it is, that's that is a respectable high end program that is not going to take a step back or a few years off just because they have a new head coach. They'll be right back in the thick of it in the CAA.
I've heard a couple people mention to me already, you know what name's coming up, right? And I agree with you that I think Scott deserves an opportunity at the
I
very
don't.
least to interview for the job. But you know what name's coming up right now, right?
No, should I?
Well, you should, and I don't know why you don't.
No.
I should stop asking you open-ended questions because you never answer them ever. You're like the kids I've taught. Or
Oh,
even kids
that's
I've
not true.
coached. I really just have to stop asking open-ended questions. The correct answer is Chip Kelly. I've heard a couple
Oh, so
people reach out
that
to
was
me and
discussed
say to
yesterday in
me,
Gillette.
"Yeah, would Chip Kelly go for the job?" The answer is no to me. I
No,
don't see
God,
Chip
you
coming
wouldn't be able to
back.
pay him enough.
Well, there's that, and I think he still wants to coach. And with all due respect to UNH, this isn't a knock
FBS.
on UNH; it's his
Yeah.
alma mater. But I think he wants to coach at a bigger school. So I'd be shocked if he decided to come back and and take over and make for an unbelievable story. Don't get me
Oh, yeah.
wrong.
Yep.
But I would be surprised there. I agree with you that I think Scott has certainly paid his dues. He's had a lengthy coaching career, especially in the New England area. And I think he deserves an opportunity to at least show that he can lead the program, even if it's as an interim through this year and next season, and then they make a decision on what they want to do there. And we've seen it work in the past, right? We saw it with Sammy McCorkle at
Yeah.
Dartmouth. He did a terrific job taking over there after Coach Tevens got hurt and subsequently passed away. So I think it's one of those things where we've known Scott for a long time. We're not saying he should get this opportunity because we know him. We know the kind of person and coach he is, and familiarity does matter to kids. And I think it's important to have as much familiarity as possible. It'll also depend on what he puts around him as a staff. Do any of the current members of the staff go with Santos to Penn? It depends. But I will say this. I do want to wish Ricky Santos the best of luck at Penn. He's a Massachusetts high school football legend. He's a UNH legend. He's one hell of a coach. I love his passion for football, his passion for UNH, his passion for coaching. And I think Penn got a great one. And I think Penn's in really good hands, and they're going to be in really good hands for a long time. And I'm going to remind people, I also had a couple people ask me, how could he go to an Ivy League school? Does he know anything about the Ivy League? He does. He coached at Columbia. So he knows plenty about the Ivy League. And that's what appealed to him ultimately about this job as well. So Ricky would not have made this decision if he weren't familiar with the Ivy League and hadn't done his homework. He knew what he was doing, and that's why he ultimately made this decision. He wouldn't leave UNH for just any job.
No, 100%. And honestly, I'm looking forward to, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but whenever they play Harvard, Yale, or Dartmouth, I'm looking forward to covering Penn now just to see Ricky again.
Penn played Harvard this year, so it definitely won't be Harvard. They'll be at Penn.
That's right.
Harvard will be at Penn next year.
But no, I echo all the same sentiments. He was fantastic to work with. And just on Scott real quick, he's also built the program from the ground up with New Haven. That can't be overstated as well, and can't be kind of pushed aside. If you look at what New Haven is now with Mark Powell, they're now a legitimate program. So, and let's not forget too, Scott James, I believe it's 7 for 7 in his 7 years with UNH in 2 different stints. They've made the playoffs. So the guy knows winning. And let's not forget he won with Chesney as well at a really high level. So, again, we are advocating for him just because we do know him. But regardless, again, of who gets that job, that's a program who's not going to take a step back.
No. And a couple of other news and notes in college football as well. Jason Candle off and running at UConn. He's had a good first week on the job. Picked up a big commitment from Bo Polson, quarterback out of Indiana, who had originally committed to Candle at Toledo. He decommitted from Toledo and committed to UConn at the end of this past week. So that's a big pickup for Coach Candle as he tries to put his staff together there. Gordy Samus, former offensive coordinator at UConn, who's going to lead the Huskies in the Fenway Bowl. He took the TCU offensive coordinator job on Friday. So on December 27th, that'll be Samus's last game as a member of the UConn staff. We want to wish Coach Samus the best of luck. Of course, New England Football Journal will be covering the Fenway Bowl. Our Andy Close is going to be there for that one. He covered UConn for us throughout the year. So we're excited to have Andy there to cover the Fenway Bowl. They'll be playing Army, who, of course, lost over the weekend in the annual Army-Navy game. As you can see, Stone still reliving the game from 2 years ago in his bedroom. Scott checks in. Hope you guys are well, not plugging WEI. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. Thanks for checking in, man. I hope you're doing well as well. And no worries. It happens. And nope, we don't feel like you're plugging EI, but thanks for checking in, brother. So those are a couple of the happenings in the area. Did I miss any other college happenings, by the way? Did anything else happen that I might have missed?
No, portal, I believe portal opens the first week of January. So I'm sure we'll have an influx of more guys there as well. But I do think
we already had a lot of local guys that have entered the portal from all the schools in the area.
I am curious about UConn because some of the talent that they're losing is legitimate.
They've had right. Well, and to your point about the portal, Cam Edwards entered the portal on Friday. He is going to play in the Fenway Bowl. Joe Fagnano and Skylar Bell announced that they are not playing in that game. Cam Edwards will, and it is his last game at UConn. So that's a huge loss, man. I mean, he had a huge season this past season, if not the greatest running back season in program history, certainly one of the greatest. And if you're Jason Candle, you hope a local kid from Norwalk, Connecticut would have stuck around. Edwards decided to enter the portal, and that's a big deal. You hope Candle and this staff can maybe convince him to stay and make him a featured part of the offense.
Yeah, I'm just again, we talked about it last week, the whole non-conference thing. I know Canada was a great recruiter, but I can't help but wonder how much it's going to affect his ability to recruit to UConn,
I
especially
think
when
it's
you have
too
a
early. I think it's way too early to say that right now.
so sure, but I'm saying I worry about it going forward. But
I mean, Mora recruited well, and that staff recruited
true.
well. Candle's a terrific recruiter. I think he'll recruit well here. The other thing is, I think he has inroads in areas of the country that Mora and his staff did not,
Mhm.
specifically the Midwest. So I think he's going to pull more from that part of the country. Look, I think we could safely say it's going to affect any coach, right?
Of
Because
course.
you're not in a
Yeah.
conference, and that is a selling point. But UConn can sell other things. They can sell the facilities. They can sell recent success. They can sell opportunity, playing time, NIL. So they have other things they could sell. But yeah, I think regardless of who the coach is, not being in a conference doesn't help in recruiting, but it's not a death knell either.
No, no, it's not. Just on Fagano and Sky Bell real quick. Sky Bell became the first AP All-American, I believe, for UConn today. Are you surprised they're not playing? I feel like those
No,
two kids. So I'm not
no,
either, but I
no,
feel like
I'm
those are
not.
two guys that might play.
No, given where bowl games are now, and they're going to become a thing of the past here soon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as someone who loves them and loves bowl week, I think the reality is you're going to see fewer and fewer of them moving forward. This has been a recent trend in recent years, i.e., the last 10 years or so, about guys opting out of bowl games. I'm not surprised. I mean, look, do you want to finish your career on a high note and pick up 10 wins? Yes, I think UConn should win this game. They're better than Army. I think that they're going to get to 10 wins regardless. But I think at the end of the day, if you're Joe Fagnano, Skylar Bell, what else is left to prove? You've done your work here. Skylar Bell stayed when he could have very easily taken the bag somewhere else. They did what they were supposed to do here. They had great careers. They're UConn greats. They will be remembered in that program for a long time. Declare for the draft. Go get ready for the NFL. That should be their focus moving forward. I don't have a problem with it, and I'm not surprised that they're not playing in the game.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I thought maybe they might play, but it does make sense. Just on the portal, real quick, in terms of local departures, BC hasn't lost anybody major yet, but I feel like we're gonna get a surprise name or two. So we should kind of keep your eyes and ears out for that one. But on the flip side of it, I'll be curious to see, like a Jaden Craig, a guy like him leaving Harvard. Does he go somewhere major, or does he kind of take a second tier type of role where he can flourish as a starter and really show out before the draft next year? But there's going to be a ton of questions and a ton of names that you see in the portal locally. It's going to be a busy next few weeks, couple months really. But a guy like Jaden Craig is also somebody I just wanted to make sure we mentioned because his name is going to get thrown around a lot, especially to BC. I think he really could be an option there as well.
I think he could be. I think he'll have some Power Four interest. I think he'll have a lot of Group of Five interest. But I think he's going to have schools competing for him. I think he will be in a position like a Cam Edwards where he's going to get a good bag somewhere, and I think he's going to get an opportunity to play. And so it'll be interesting. And I do agree with you. I think Boston College could potentially be in play for him. We've seen them show an interest in Harvard guys in the past. We've seen them bring Harvard guys in. Ty Bartram's another player that's in the portal from Harvard as a grad transfer. He could potentially end up at Boston College as well. So they'll be interested on both of those guys. Those are two good football players that are sitting there in the portal right now that I do think are going to generate a lot of interest amongst the bigger schools. And look, you've seen it in recent years with the Ivy League
Well,
players that have entered the portal as grad transfers. They get big time offers. We saw it with Thor Griffin a couple of years ago, Jonathan Mendoza. Both of them ended up at Louisville. These guys will garner interest and they will get NIL money to pick a school and go there and play. And they're going to play right away. It's not something where they're going to They only have a year of eligibility, so they're going to play right away.
Right.
I think these guys will have a lot of interest.
Well, I was just saying, look at Cooper Buckey from
Yeah,
Harvard this year. He went and
yeah, with the
dominated
Duke.
at Duke, and now he
Yeah.
might be an NFL talent. Yeah, the Ivy League is we're going to continue to pump it, but you can't overstate how good the Ivy League really is. The talent coming
No,
out of there
these are
now,
guys that coming out of high school could have potentially played
right?
Power 4 or Group of 5 football. Absolutely. These were guys that were recruited by some of those schools out of high school. So there's a lot of good talent in the Ivy League. And I get a lot of people around here, and they don't do it on purpose. Ignorance is bliss, but they'll ask me, they'll say, is the Ivy League that good? And I say, yeah, it's that good, man. The talent level is that good. So it doesn't surprise me when I see these guys get the bag and go somewhere and play at a bigger school and have success and get a shot in the NFL. I mean, they got the best of both worlds. They get a chance to get an Ivy League education, make Ivy League connections. They play a year of big-time college football. They have a chance to pursue their dream in the NFL. If it doesn't work out, they've already got a career waiting for them after football where they're going to make a lot of money because of that Ivy League education. It's a smart play, man. I've said it for the last few years. If you're a guy that can get into an Ivy League school and you're not being pursued by the schools you wanted, take that Ivy League offer, go get the education, enter the portal as a grad transfer, play at the bigger school, and then take your chances in the NFL. But I think at the end of the day, you don't have to necessarily go the Power 4 Group of 5 route right out of high school. You can go to an Ivy League school, get a tremendous education, and then pursue it after you graduate.
100%. And again, I think you're going to start to see more and more of these names end up on big time rosters. You mentioned Thor Griffin. It sort of felt like he started the way the last few years, especially for Harvard in particular. But again, we cover the Ivy League regularly, so you're right. A lot of people just don't know. But again, you have BC fans, for instance, saying, "Well, why would we go with an Ivy League guy?" You know what I mean? Like they just don't know. But that talent
Wait,
is
you mean
real.
to tell me they took a break from breaking down their top 30 available offensive line coaches to talk about why Boston College would take a flyer in an Ivy League guy? Wow, that's
Right.
impressive. They took a
Sounded
break
right.
from their top 25 wide receiver coaching options to look at what Ivy League guys are in the portal. Anyway, all right, before we wrap it up here, I do want to get into some high school football. Great Saturday of action down in Connecticut for all the state title games. First of all, I want to start out by saying that Rob Gulo, Andy Close, Craig Boland did a great job for us down there this past weekend. They did a great job for us throughout the season with our Connecticut high school coverage, but especially this weekend. A lot of good feedback from people on X, and we appreciate that. Those guys busted their butts throughout the playoffs, and especially on Saturday to deliver that content. And boy, did they ever! What a great bunch of games too. For me, the one that sticks out is Hand beating Killingly 37-13. That score blew me away because if people have followed that Killingly football program the last 2 years, they have been mucking people left and right. And for Hand to not only win the game against a team that was averaging almost 50 points a game, for them to not only win the game, but to win it convincingly, super, super impressive. And of course, it starts with Luca Boyce, one of the best players in the state of Connecticut. He was terrific. Tim O'Malley up front, he was terrific. Great win there for Daniel Hand. New Canaan finishes off the four-peat. Lou Marinelli winning his 16th state title. He and John DiBiaso are pretty much neck and neck for most state titles in the region. Again, New Canaan completing the four-peat. They finished the season as the number one team in our top 25 CIAC poll. Greenwich goes back-to-back with a big win over Southington. That was impressive as well. Sheehan beating Northwest Catholic in the Class S title game. That was a big win for Sheehan. That game was scoreless at halftime. Berlin, the Redcoats, John Capodice comes back. That was probably the game of the night. Big win for them, 20-15. They win the state title. John Capodice comes back. Redcoats are state champions. So it was a terrific, terrific Saturday of action down in Connecticut. And again, like I said, I can't thank our guys enough. That I thought they did a great job with our coverage, and we love covering Connecticut high school football, and we were pumped for the playoffs and the game. And I thought our guys did a really nice job delivering down there.
Yeah, fantastic job by all of them. On Greenwich, real quick. Oh, just four straight.
Greenwich, not Greenwich. Don't come
four,
off as a douchebag Massachusettsite.
Fair. Four straight at any level, regardless of
that's New Canaan that won four
Sorry,
straight.
New Canaan. Greenwich was back to back.
Greenwich went back to back. Not
New Canaan, sorry about that. New Canaan winning four straight.
You're a wrestling fan, right?
What's that?
You're a wrestling fan, right?
Correct.
Right. Triple H was built from Greenwich, Connecticut.
Yes, that's true. You're right. You're right. The blue blood. You're correct. Winning four straight at any level in any sport is a ridiculous accomplishment. So congratulations to them. And then for Greenwich to go back to back, same thing. And they did it in dominant fashion. I think it was 45-6.
45-6 they beat Southington for the Class LL state title.
In a state championship game. Like, that's CMS.
And that's Southington. And I will say, kudos to Rob Levesque and his staff there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they started the year off 2-3. And then they went on a run there and they got to the state title game. Congratulations to those guys. It was one heck of a run. Unfortunately, they ran into a program in Greenwich that has become one of the standard bearers in high school football down there. But a great job by Coach Levesque and his staff nonetheless.
And then just two more quick things. One, the Red Coats might be the coolest mascot name we cover.
I love it. Yep.
I didn't know it existed.
They won the class. Yeah, they won the Class M title over Brookfield, 20-15. So.
And then Windsor obviously winning their championship, led by the Gatorade Player of the Year, and Robinson was also just a hell of a performance.
And by the way, congratulations to first-year coach Quinn Fleeting, who took over for his dad Rob there, and leading Windsor to a 23-13 win in the Class MM state title game against Bunnell. Which, by the way, that Bunnell team, you talk about another scrappy program that put it together down the stretch, and they played some really good football throughout the year, but they played their best ball down the stretch, and they found themselves in a state title game. Congratulations to Coach Jenkins on a job well done there as well.
Yeah, no, the story of Robinson, finishing off his special season.
Back-to-back Gatorade Player of the Year, by the way.
Back-to-back, and also on winning a title on his eventual home field. He's going to go to CCSU. Just a great story and a great way to cap his season as well.
Yeah. No, it was a great day of football on Saturday. And again, I think it's Connecticut high school football is awesome. I have been a fan and follower of Connecticut high school football since I was in high school. Like, I mean, you've had some of the best programs in New England. And for a long time, Connecticut high school football was probably the best in New England. I would give the nod to Massachusetts now, but I think Connecticut is right there. You've got a lot of good programs. I mean, New Canaan can hang with anybody in the region. And again, kudos to Coach Marinelli on winning his 16th title. It's crazy. Lou Marinelli is truly a legend in Connecticut high school football and in high school football at large. And we'll have more Connecticut high school football coverage for you this offseason. We've got the Walter Camp Dinner coming up here soon. Our Rob Gulo will be covering that for us. So we got plenty of Connecticut high school football coverage throughout the offseason as well. All right, Stone, any final thoughts here before we wrap it up? And again, I do want to remind you, it's Greenwich, not Greenwich.
Yeah, I gotcha. The Triple H thing, I'll remember that now.
There you go.
We will have continuous Patriots coverage all week long. I'll be up at Gillette Stadium. Again, huge one this weekend against Baltimore. We will have transfer portal coverage. We will have coaching news coverage whenever it drops. Again, as you always say, we are all football all the time. It is nice to not have to go somewhere every single day, but we will still have plenty to do, especially with the Patriots hopefully making a deep playoff run.
Yeah, and just to echo Kevin's sentiment, I mean, just follow along. We got plenty of football coverage for you throughout the offseason. We'll have content on a daily basis. We'll also have content on our social media platforms as well. And as always, best way to support New England Football Journal is through subscribing. Visit anyfootballjournal.com. Go over to the New England Football Journal membership tab. For $2.99 a month, you get some of the best football coverage in the region. We appreciate your support. We cannot, and it's interesting, Kevin, I want to bring this up because I ran into a parent over the weekend who subscribes, and he said to me, he says, your footprint for New England Football Journal is crazy to me that you guys cover so much, that you're able to cover 6 states. And, we covered championship games this year in Maine and New Hampshire, and we covered all the state title games in Massachusetts, all the state title games in Rhode Island, all the state title games in Connecticut. And I said, listen, it comes down to support. If we have the support, we have proven that we're willing to invest in our business to continue to provide the best football coverage in the area. And so we take a lot of pride in being able to do that. But the best way for us to do that is your support. And we appreciate you subscribing. We know it's off season now. We know that you want to put your money somewhere else. We know that football is not necessarily top of mind, but we love what we do in New England Football Journal. We're passionate about football. I know for me, it's been a love of my life since I was 5-6 years old. And I love this game so much. This game has done so much for me. And New England Football Journal, in a lot of ways, is my way of giving back to the game, but also working to maintain the game so that it stays strong and that we play it forever. But the best way to support us and help us bring light to the kids, the programs, the coaches, the communities is by subscribing. So again, visit anyfootballjournal.com, go over to the New England Football Journal membership tab. For $2.99 a month, you can support us, which in turn allows us to produce content. That'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Sarianides. We will be back with you next week. Until then, have a happy and safe week. Peace.
See you.